got a soapbox I can stand upon, but God gave me a stage, a guitar, and a song. My daddy told me, son, don't you get involved in politics, religions, other people's crime.
Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Daphne, and today we're talking about my 8th week of pregnancy. So this is a really big week for me and my family because we are in our last week of living in our old house before we move into our new house in Ann Arbor. So it's only about half an hour away, but you would be amazed at the amount of work it takes to pack up a house, even just to move 30 minutes away. It's incredible. So this week for me has been exhausting. And when I say exhausting, I mean really exhausting. I didn't do like my hair, my makeup, or anything today. I just wanted to make sure that I got this video done because it's important to me to continue documenting this pregnancy for my memories. I just want to be able to look back on this time. So here's the real reality for me this week is that I'm exhausted. We need to finish packing our house up and we need to move to the new house, and we have less than a week to do that, and it's really exciting. I'm so excited, but I have never been this tired. So in terms of symptoms this week, I actually kind of feel like I'm getting a little bit better. I have a little bit more energy in general throughout the day. I think if we weren't packing and moving and there wasn't all of the stress of that stuff, I feel like I would have a little more energy this week, and that's just being counteracted by the fact that we have huge stuff going on in our life right now. So there's that. And I think that if this were 2 to 3 weeks ago and I was going through this move right now, I would just be in bed and Pete would just have to do everything, or we would have to call family to help us. But so far this week, I mean, at least stuff is getting done, even if it's not in the most graceful way. We're gonna get through this week and we're gonna move and everything is going to be fine. And that's partially thanks to the fact that I'm feeling okay enough to be packing. I am still throwing up every day, but it's gotten better. I feel like now I'm not nauseous all the time. I'm only nauseous probably maybe a third of the time, which is a huge improvement from where I was at before, where I was just nauseous constantly. There was never a time when I was feeling okay, and now there is, and you have no idea how grateful I feel about that. It's crazy to feel grateful about not being sick, but once you're really sick and you go through something like that, you just realize how nice it is to feel okay. So there's that. I have a little more energy. I'm probably only throwing up a couple of times a day, 2 to 3 times a day, which is way better than it was before. I feel like before it was like every hour or more, and it was happening all the time, and now definitely improving. And I'm excited because obviously we're moving to the new house. Like, we're bad at timing things. My husband and I, so we're moving into the new house next week, and then the week after that we had booked a cruise like 6 months ago, a long time ago. And at that time when we had booked the cruise, we didn't know we were moving and we didn't know that we would be pregnant. So literally 1 week after moving, we're leaving for a cruise to the Western Caribbean, and I will probably record some stuff from that trip. And I think that's when we're gonna do our pregnancy announcement, like, to the world. So after that, I'll be posting all of these videos for like my 4th week through whatever that'll be, like my 10th or 11th week. And so then we'll announce to the world, and I'll put all of these videos up, and then hopefully I will just continuing to do this. See, I can't talk. That's another thing. It's like my brain is not fully functioning, and that's showing through at work, which is a whole separate thing. It's hard to focus at work. I feel like I'm making mistakes, and pregnancy brain, people, is a real thing. Like, you may think that women just make excuses when they're pregnant for making silly mistakes, but no, literally, like, pregnancy brain is a real thing. And I think I must have read it in a book, is because your body has a lot of extra blood flow and there's extra blood, and it literally makes your brain swell a little bit, and it affects your cognition and it affects your memory, and all of that goes away once baby is born. But literally, pregnant women do some of the stupidest stuff, like you know, putting something in the fridge that shouldn't go in the fridge. Just stuff like putting, like, I don't keep my peanut butter in the fridge, but I put the peanut butter in the fridge this week without thinking about it. It's just stuff like that where you just, it's like your brain short circuits, I swear. And in my profession, I work in estate planning. We do legal documents for people, and I'm in charge of drafting that stuff and communicating with clients, and my brain can't be malfunctioning right now, but I swear it is. And of course, everyone I work with is so sweet and understanding, and I'm so grateful for that. But man, pregnancy brain, it's a real thing. Now, can we talk about my belly? Because you will have seen in the video, the like entry video here, but like my belly, like, come on. That is significantly more round than it was. And I feel like even if I like push it out, right? Like, this is me totally relaxed. I look pregnant. Like, yeah. And if I'm sucking it in, it looks like that. But you can, I swear you can still see. And when I'm comfortable, it's like, ooh. So I just feel like my belly has popped this week. I really do. So end of week 8, that's it. Belly's hanging out. And I don't think, I mean, it's not, we work from home. It's not like we see a ton of people all the time. But I told my husband this morning when I was wearing this, because this hoodie has stripes on it, and stripes, I swear, really accentuate things being round. I was like, man, because if you know me, you know that I lost a good amount of weight last year. I'm like, dang, people are going to think, oh, wow, she lost a bunch of weight and now putting it all back on. So yeah, I feel like I look like I'm getting fat, but just in the belly. It's so annoying. So I know that in probably a month or 2, it's going to start really rounding out. But for now, it's just, I feel like my belly looks big and it looks like I'm putting on weight, and it's just annoying. So the thing is, baby is the size of a raspberry, which is still pretty small. It's about 3/4 of an inch in length. And that's still pretty small, but you have to think about the fact that when you're growing a human, it's not just the baby that makes you bigger, but it's also a huge increase in your own blood volume, blood flow. It is the size of your uterus, which by this point in pregnancy has doubled. So it starts about the size of a closed fist, and now it's a little bigger than a grapefruit. So it really has expanded quite a bit. And there's the amniotic fluid, the amniotic sac. And I guess I don't know how developed the placenta is, but there's that, and there's the yolk sac. There's just a lot going on in there. So I think a lot of pregnant women think, wow, like I'm huge for the fact that my baby's this big. But it's not just the baby. There's a lot going on down there. And there are hormones like relaxin that are making all of your, you know, joints and ligaments, everything relax to make space for baby. And for me, my body's already grown 2 babies. So like my body knows what it's doing, and it's like, like we're pregnant. So yeah, if we were seeing people all the time and I was working with people, I think it would be at this point where people would be like, is she pregnant? Like people would be whispering about it if they hadn't already seen me puking all the time, which, you know, they would have. But yeah, so I think week 8, I'm end of week 8 now, but I think week 8, week 9 is really where my belly is going to start becoming obvious, like really obvious that I'm pregnant. So we'll see. I'm interested to see in about a month where my belly is at. I think it's going to be quite obvious that I'm pregnant. So we'll see. But to me, it's obvious now. So yeah. So enough about me this week. Let's talk about baby. So like I said, baby is about 3/4 of an inch long, getting pretty big, right? Baby's head is half of the body. So like huge head, and we're growing the brain primarily, and everything else is going to catch up. But all of the major organs and everything, all of the major structures from baby's body that baby will have all throughout life, they're already developed. Everything is in place. baby's heart is fully developed and functioning. It has like all of the chambers and valves that it's going to have. So that's really cool. And let's see, the facial features, every week it's like the facial features get a lot more clear, and it's like the eyes started out over here and they're kind of migrating up to the front, and you know, the nose was kind of indistinct and now it's becoming more like a real nose. And yeah, so the fact that all of baby's features are getting really clear and that baby looks kind of more like a baby. And oh, this is the last week I think that baby has a tail. The tail is going to be going completely away by next week, which is cute but sad. My little mermaid is no longer a mermaid. So yeah, I don't know. It's so cool. It's so cool how humans develop. I'm so interested in fetal development. I think it's really cool. And so yeah, it's fascinating that baby is starting to look less like a tadpole and a lot more like a human. And I have a couple of apps that I follow. One is called Pregnancy Plus, and it shows you a 3D rendering of what baby looks like. And if you fast forward just like 2 or 3 weeks from now, baby looks like a baby, just a full-on baby, nothing else. Like everything is there, all the proportions turn into a baby. So really in the next couple of weeks, it goes from huge head and a rounded shape to like a normal spine, normal limbs, everything. So we're kind of in this transition period right now, but really starting to look more and more like a human every day. And I think that's so cool. And I am so excited to meet this little human. So yeah, another thing from this week is that I am so excited. My first appointment with my OB is coming up, and we get to meet baby in just a couple of days here. So that will be when I am 9 weeks and 1 day. So I get to have an ultrasound and get a real look at baby, and we get to take home pictures, I'm sure, of baby, and I get to meet the OB who's gonna be doing my care. So I'm really excited about that. Speaking of which, last pregnancy I went with a midwife. Loved my midwife. Like, she was everything. It felt like going to family instead of a doctor whenever I had my appointments. She was really caring and loving, and that's why I wanted to have a midwife, is so that it was this more like personalized, like I can't even explain it. I just wanted it to be happier, more personalized experience, and it was with my midwife. And this time I'm switching back to an OB instead of a midwife, just because I have a lot of obstetrical history, and I've had a lot of factors in my pregnancies that have made this pregnancy pretty high risk, not in the beginning and not in terms of losing the pregnancy, but in the end, because I tend to develop gestational hypertension and then severe pre-eclampsia to the point where baby has to be evicted or my life could be at risk. Like I have explained in a previous pregnancy, not only did I have pre-eclampsia with severe features, which means that it's to the point where if you don't deliver baby pretty much immediately, it can develop into eclampsia, which is a condition in pregnancy where the mother's organs start shutting down and the mother starts having bad seizures, which of course can lead to stroke, it can lead to death, and it's one of the leading causes of mortality in mothers. So I have a history of that. So that's why I chose to go with an OB this time, just because, I could have started out the pregnancy with a midwife and stayed with the midwife practice until which point that I develop hypertension or preeclampsia. But now that I've had it in 100% of my previous pregnancies, I'm just at a very high risk of developing it again. So I'm going to stick with an OB because probably I'm going to end up with an OB anyway, and that's okay. I know that I get pretty sick at the end of pregnancy, and that's okay. As long as I am in good hands, and I know that I am, everything's going to be fine. And so preeclampsia is one reason why I'm going with an OB. And the other reason is because in my last pregnancy, and I've talked about this in prior videos, I had a very severe postpartum hemorrhage, which is where you deliver baby and the placenta comes out and everything seems to be okay, and then suddenly you start bleeding out very fast. So that happened with me, and maybe I'll go into detail in a separate video if anyone's interested in what that experience was like and what happened following my hemorrhage and how we figured out I was hemorrhaging and everything like that. But I lost, over half of my blood in, within minutes, and had to go to the OR and have a D&C and everything. So they got my bleeding under control really fast, but if I had delivered with a midwife, I wouldn't have had an OB there who's experienced in handling it, and midwives can't do surgery. So I needed to go into the operating room immediately, and it happened really fast. My OB was there, because I had pre-eclampsia, I delivered with an OB, and, luckily I was in a hospital. Luckily everything got taken care of. And I could have died from the pre-eclampsia. I could have died from the hemorrhage. And so that's why I chose an OB instead of a midwife this time. Love my midwife, desperately wish I could work with a midwife, but I know that the right medical and logical choice for me and for the baby is to go with a doctor. So there's that. Anyway, I think that is going to be all for this week. Next week, obviously, is going to be an extremely exciting week in my update, because I'll get to show you guys actual pictures of baby, and I'll get to talk about everything. And oh my gosh, I'm totally crazy. The last thing that I have to share with you guys is that this week I was able to find baby's heartbeat on a fetal Doppler. And I'm going to insert in here after this a video that I took when I found the heartbeat. And I actually found it pretty early, like just right after I had turned 8 weeks. And then, I've been doing it pretty much every day since, just to check and make sure that heartbeat's okay, baby's okay. Especially when I'm having cramping, I like to just check and make sure everything's okay. But I'll insert the video here of how I find baby's heartbeat, and then you can listen to baby's little heartbeat.
All right, good morning. Forgive the fact that I look crazy, but I wanted to show, I had talked a little bit in my last update about how to find baby's heartbeat. If you listen really closely, I'm hoping you'll be able to hear. That's what baby's heartbeat sounds like on a fetal Doppler. So today I'm 8 weeks and 6 days. And I just wanted to explain a little bit about how I found baby's heartbeat. So make sure like my bits aren't showing, but so that's where I have the probe. It's very low, kind of like down by your underwear line. I would say 2 inches below my belly button. And you have to like really, it's millimeters of difference to find it. So what I do is I put the probe on and I listen until I can hear the placental sounds, which basically sounds like you're in the woods and there's like wind blowing through the trees. Let me see if I can find that. So it's that sound. And then once you find that, you're in the right spot. And for me, I just have to readjust like a few millimeters. You barely touch the thing and nudge it until you do like little circles until you find baby. And you know that you found baby's heartbeat and not your own heartbeat. Like your own heartbeat is going to be like dunk, 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 dunk. And baby's heartbeat is like dunk, 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 dunk. It's like at least twice as fast as yours. So yeah, so that's how I find baby. I found baby's heartbeat like a few days after I turned 8 weeks. So that's just about the earliest you can find it. And it took me like probably 45 minutes. So it's not something like you have to sit there and move the probe like millimeter by millimeter until you find it. So it's not super easy, but you can find it. And for me, before my first ultrasound, it's just nice to be able to hear baby's heartbeat and be reassured that everything's okay. Baby is alive and doing well, based on the heartbeat. So yeah, that was my quick update, and I will go back to the regular update. Bye.
And yeah, so that's really exciting. I'm for sure that baby is alive in there and everything's okay, which is so exciting. But next week's gonna be even better because we get to see baby, which is super, super cool. So yeah, thank you if you have watched this far. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week for my 9-week update.
Exponential growth and the stock market crashing and our portfolios while